Hello, thank you for joining with me. I wanted to make a video. This came to me last night, to be honest. But I was asked by an acquaintance, and I have dog hair on everything, what is A Course in Miracles? And to me, I had to sit with that because I wanted to answer without intimidation, because as many of you know, if you're familiar with A Course in Miracles, it can be a little overwhelming or heavy. I've heard the term heavy. And I'll tell you the truth, it took me years to even read the book once I was introduced to it. So, A Course in Miracles. Let me read to you what the introduction says. This is a Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The Course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. That's all-encompassing. If love is all-encompassing, what else is there? This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened, and nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. So I wanted to read that, but I want to tell you a little bit about my story. I was raised Roman Catholic. I was raised in the Catholic Church, primarily Christmas and Easter, churchgoers. We didn't go to church every Sunday. We went through periods when we did, and then we didn't. And Catholicism, it just never felt, yes, when I'm in church, I would be overcome with emotion due to the service, yes, but it just didn't sit right with me. The guilt and the fear and the power, and I just didn't believe that God, if I didn't take communion, I'd go to hell or hang out in purgatory. It just didn't sit well with me. It just didn't make sense. So when I went to college, I'm from up north, I'm from New York. When I went to college in the early 90s, I minored in religion because I didn't think I could do anything with religion if I majored in it. I don't even know if it was a major at that time. But I minored in religion because I was always so interested in religion. I love religion. It's very interesting. So I've always been drawn to, and then also I was on a search. For God. I belonged to Northern Baptist churches, Protestant, everything. Studied Buddhism, studied everything. I've just, from one end of the spectrum to the other. And I was always looking for that God hole. I was always looking to fill that God hole. And this was in my 20s. And I was using relationships, alcohol, partying, work. I was very successful at a young age in my career, which I fell into. It wasn't by choice, so I'm very grateful, very, very grateful for that. Anyway, I was always searching. So I end up going to AA when I'm 30 because alcoholism runs in my family, and I was a high functioning alcoholic. And I'm saying this because this has a lot to do with my search for God, using alcohol, using relationships, using whatever I could, sugar for God's sake, which alcohol, you know. So, I mean, just food, men, whatever I could find. Definitely work filled a void. Anyway, so that was when I was 30. I finally, I was in my second marriage, and it was at the point where I was going to lose my marriage or I had to get sober. I ended up losing the marriage anyway, but I did get sober. That's a whole nother story. But I did get sober, and again, introduced to the concept of God and needing to find a higher power. So in 2003, let's jump there from 2001 is when I first got sober. So 2003, I had a friend give me Marianne Williamson's A Return to Love. And of course it was a male friend because I didn't have any female friends. Hardly, even in sobriety. I was very cautious. So I read that book. I'll never forget. I was in the bathtub reading, and I'll just never forget it. It was like I found home. So I would always suggest people read that book first, A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. And she wrote that based on A Course in Miracles, the principles of A Course in Miracles. And so I read that book in 2003, and it just totally changed my life from that moment on. So I did not get the book because I was very intimidated by it. I had I had an inferiority complex, and I just thought I wasn't smart enough. Quite honestly, I was like, this book is heavy, and it's too heavy for me. I'm not an intellectual. So anyhow, believe it or not, look at how God works. So this book was given to me by my cousin in 2007. And it was his, and it was old, it was rat-a-tatted. Other people owned it too. And my cousin gave it to me in 2006, late 2006, because I started it in January 2007. I started reading it, and I've never stopped since. This is my chosen spiritual path. And basically, only love is real. So if only love is real, nothing real can be threatened. So love cannot be threatened. And nothing unreal exists. So nothing else is real. It's all an illusion. Only love is real. And love cannot be threatened. And so everything else is an illusion. So there are several parts to A Course in Miracles. It's a combined volume by the Foundation for Inner Peace. Helen Schuckman, I'm going to turn it over. The combined volume, third edition of A Course in Miracles, is the only edition that contains in one place all the writings that Dr. Helen Schuckman, its scribe, who was an intellect, authorized to be printed. It is published solely by the Foundation for Inner Peace, the organization chosen by Dr. Schuckman in 1975 for this purpose. This combined volume also includes supplements to A Course in Miracles, Psychotherapy, Purpose, Process, and Practice, and the Song of Prayer. These sections are extensions of the Course principles which were dictated to Dr. Schuckman shortly after she completed A Course in Miracles. So this Columbia professor scribed this. I didn't even get into that. She scribed this, I think it was late 60s, early 70s. I think it was early 70s. So this book gets into that. So the preface was written in 1977 in response to many requests for a brief introduction. So let me go ahead and read this. A Course in Miracles began with the sudden decision of two people to join in a common goal. Their names were Helen Schuckman and William Thetford, professors of medical psychology at Columbia University's College of Physicians and Surgeons in New York City. It does not matter who they were, except the story shows that with God all things are possible. They were anything but spiritual. Their relationship with each other was difficult and often strained, and they were concerned with personal and professional acceptance and status. In general, they had considerable investment in the values of the world. Their lives were hardly in accord with anything that the Course advocates. Helen, the one who received the material, describes herself. Psychologist, educator, conservative in theory, and atheistic in belief, I was working in a prestigious and highly academic setting. And then something happened that triggered a chain of events I could never have predicted. The head of my department unexpectedly announced that he was tired of the angry and aggressive feelings our attitudes reflected and concluded that there must be another way. As if on cue, I agreed to help him find it. Apparently, this course is the other way. Although their intention was serious, they had great difficulty in starting out on their joint venture. But they had given the Holy Spirit the little willingness that the Course itself was to emphasize again and again, is sufficient to enable him to use any situation for his purposes and to provide it with his power. I'm going to stop there because this is pretty long and I'm not going to get totally into it. But so the course is arranged throughout as a teaching device. It consists of 3 books: the text, a workbook for students, which has daily workbook lessons, and a 92-page manual for teachers. The order in which the students choose to use the books and the ways in which they study them depend on their needs and preferences. The curriculum the course proposes is carefully conceived and is explained step by step at both the theoretical and practical levels. It emphasizes application rather than theory, and experience rather than theology. It specifically states that a universal theology is impossible, but a universal experience is not only possible but necessary. Although Christian in statement, the Course deals with universal spiritual themes. It emphasizes that it is but one version of the universal curriculum. There are many others, this one differing from them only in form, and they all lead to God in the end. The text is largely theoretical and sets forth the concepts on which the Course's thought system is based. Its ideas contain the foundation for the workbook's lessons. Without the practical application the workbook provides, the text would remain largely a series of abstractions which would hardly suffice to bring about the thought reversal at which the Course aims. So it's basically an open mind, new experience is definitely a requirement. So the workbook includes 365 lessons, 1 for each day of the year, and you don't have to do the lessons at that tempo. You might want to remain with one for more than a day. The instructions urge only that not more than 1 lesson a day should be attempted. So you can do 1 for a few days, but don't try to do more than 1 lesson a day. The practical nature of the workbook is underscored by the introduction to its lessons, which emphasize experience through application rather than a prior commitment to a spiritual goal. Okay? Remember this, you need not even believe the ideas, you need not accept them, and you need not even welcome them. Some of them you may actively resist. None of this will matter or decrease their efficacy, but do not allow yourself to make exceptions in applying the ideas the workbook contains. And whatever your reactions to the ideas may be, use them. Nothing more than this is required. And then the Manual for Teachers, which is written in question and answer form, provides answers to some of the more likely questions a student might ask. It also includes clarification of a number of the terms the course uses, explaining them within the theoretical framework of the text. The course makes no claim to finality, nor are the workbook lessons intended to bring the student's learning to completion. At the end, the reader is left in the hands of his or her own internal teacher, who will direct all subsequent learning as he sees fit. So while the course is comprehensive in scope, truth cannot be limited to any finite form, as is clearly recognized in the statement at the end of the workbook. And I'm going to read that now. This course is a beginning, not an end. No more specific lessons are assigned, for there is no more need of them. Henceforth, hear but the voice for God. He will direct your efforts, telling you exactly what to do, how to direct your mind, and when to come to Him in silence, asking for His sure direction and His certain word. What it says. This is how A Course in Miracles begins. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. It makes a fundamental distinction between the real and the unreal, between knowledge, which is truth, and perception, which is obviously our take on truth. Knowledge is truth under one law, the law of love or God. Truth is unalterable, eternal, and unambiguous. It can be unrecognized, but it cannot be changed. It applies to everything that God created, and only what He created is real. It is beyond learning because it is beyond time and process. It has no opposite, no beginning, and no end. It merely is. The world of perception, on the other hand, is the world of time, of change, of beginnings and endings, death, birth. It is based on interpretation and not on facts. Oops, there it is. It is the world of birth and death, founded on the belief in scarcity, loss, separation, and death. Isn't that this world, huh? It is learned rather than given, selective in its perceptual emphases, unstable in its functioning, and inaccurate in its interpretations. From knowledge and perception, respectively, two distinct thought systems arise which are opposite in every respect. In the realm of knowledge/truth, no thoughts exist apart from God, because God and His creation share one will, because we are one. The world of perception, however, is made by the belief in opposites and separate wills, in perpetual conflict with each other and with God. What perception sees and hears appears to be real because it permits into awareness only what conforms to the wishes of the perceiver. This leads to a world of illusions, a world which needs constant defense, precisely because it is not real. And isn't that exhausting? So sin is defined as lack of love, okay? And I'm not going to get all the way into this, but I did, if you go to my YouTube, channel, Maureen Lynch Yarborough, or it's under ACIM Read With Me. I'm not sure which. ACIM Read With Me. I have recorded for years the lessons and the workbook. I'm doing the manual for teachers. I just finished the manual for teachers, and I'm doing the psychotherapy pamphlet now. So this is the contents. Okay, the meaning of miracles, separation in the atonement, the innocent perception, the illusions of the ego. So I hope this is helpful. I think it gives you a good idea of what A Course in Miracles is. Healing and wholeness, lessons of love, the gifts of the kingdom, the journey back, the acceptance of the atonement at one-ment, the idols of sickness, God or the ego, the Holy Spirit's curriculum, the guiltless world. And Jesus is reading A Course in Miracles. He's speaking through Helen Schuckman because she scribed it. Teaching for truth, the holy instant, the forgiveness of illusions, forgiveness in the holy relationship, the passing of the dream. So if everything's an illusion, there's nothing to forgive because it's not true. Does that make sense? That's why forgiveness is necessary in this world. I hope that made sense. The passing of the dream, the attainment of peace, the vision of holiness, reason and perception, salvation in the Holy Spirit, the war against yourself, the goal of specialness, the justice of God, the transition, the healing of the dream, because this world is, it's a dream. It's all a dream. The undoing of fear, the awakening, the new beginning, and the final vision. So I hope this helps to answer what is A Course in Miracles. If you have any questions, please let me know. I love you. Have a beautiful day. Thank you.